So today, for a special segment, we have work articles, and we'll focus on four articles, including low-income woman hit hardest by epidemic, women use VR to beat sexual harassment, most firms view working mothers positively, and most fed-up workers renege on decisions to quit. Stay with me and let's get into this. Okay. Moving on to our second articles today, that articles that kind of deal with women and work and society. So our first article of the day I thought was interesting was low income women hit hardest by epidemic. And I want to bring this up because in America people are saying, hey, I can stay home and make more money just staying at home by social welfare than I can work by working. Or if I do not work, if there is no welfare, I can have a man or somebody else take care of me. So I wanted to expand on this to show you some other places of the world and how things are a little different. So here we go. This came from Korea. Middle-aged women in low-paid minimal jobs have been hit the hardest by the fallout of the pandemic outbreak. Small restaurants and food stalls across the country have laid off kitchen and serving staff, while many households have terminated contracts with maids due to fear of infection, and these jobs are permanently done by, by women in their 50s and 60s. Employment data released by statistics in Korea show a sharp decline in the part-time jobs in the service sector that are largely staffed by women in March. In wholesale and retail, 168,000 jobs disappeared, and in hospitality, 109,000. Middle-aged women who lost their jobs are having a tough time finding new work. Day labor broker Kim Do-il said men can find steady jobs by delivery workers or on construction sites, but there are hardly any options left for women. A temp office in Gangnam, which is a small city outside of Seoul, where Psy lives actually, Gangnam style, is crowded with many older women every morning. Around a dozen were gathered there on Monday morning, but the phone did not ring, not even once, until noon. The, the head of the office said, I thought that the job situation would improve a bit over the long weekend, but everybody must have headed out of town while we got no phone calls. I felt quite sad because they insist on waiting in front of the office even though I tell them to go home, she added. Some women look for traditional men's jobs on building sites. One 60-year-old woman who used to make $500,000 a month helping blind kids to and from school found a job on a construction site. Schools are closed, so I have to find work to make ends meet, she said. Every time a big truck comes and gives me a start. A start means scare in this way. But I was lucky to find even this job. Another job broker said many women ask about job openings on construction sites, but jobs for women are extremely scarce. So 500,001 is like 420, 440 US dollars. Korea in general is different than the US. They still, for the most part, have company pensions. You work there like Samsung long enough and you get it. And typically speaking, Korea, until recently, if they divorced, they lost all their money because if the man worked all day, the money was his, and if she left, it was still his. But they did change that rule late in 2018, and therefore in 2019, divorce went up to around 60% because women had a lifeline. Korea in general, though, is not known for social welfare. They really don't have much unemployment. Korea's like, you know what, pick yourself up and you do it, or you should have saved earlier in life or whatever. So this is just one example of a country. So what social welfare programs are you relying on, or what are you doing to get by in this hard time? Do you feel your job is going to come back? Please like, comment, subscribe. I'd really like to know if you worked in either the service or retail jobs. Thank you. Okay. Moving on, and this article comes from the Taipei Times, and I did find this interesting because this is awesome use for a VR headset. Women use VR, which is virtual reality, to beat sexual harassment. The VR technology is part of Girl Talk project that is amid in helping women fight back against harassment in Singapore. Wow, your shirt is really see-through. Are you wearing matching underwear? The man says lewdly, as it's a virtual reality simulation. But it's enough to shock the 23-year-old Elizabeth Lee to silence as the scene plays out in her headset. The VR technology is part of the Girl Talk project, which is amid at helping women fight back against harassment in Singapore. I would think that I would respond in a more comfortable way, Lee admits. I felt very physically close. I was I was just really disgusting to hear such a crass remarks. Sexual harassment has been a key issue in the city's, states, universities, campuses after a student at a top institution took to Instagram to recount a story of being secretly filmed in a dormitory shower. The victim, Monica Bay, felt that the predator got off too lightly, and her decision to go public has been dubbed Singapore Me Too's moment. There were 56 cases of sexual misconduct involving students from 6 Singapore universities between 2015 and 2017. And honestly, that's very small. If you consider the size of the population, that's nothing. According to the Information Education Minister, he provided to the Parliament last May. But many students have said the real figure is far higher and many incidents go unreported. And I know I do agree, many do go unreported, but on the other hand, many are fake and they're used for revenge. So it goes both ways. Girl Talk was created by 4 women: Daniela Chim, Sao Yo Rong, Heather Seat, and Don Yon at Newton Technical University, who felt that while Me Too had raised awareness, there was little to equip survivors on how to respond to different situations. Even if you're caught in the physically vulnerable situation, being able to evaluate the situation and make choices about how you can behave and react on the can be incredibly empowering, the group says. And that is actually why I really brought this up. I didn't bring this up necessarily to bash on the VR or bash on girls for Me Too or domestic violence, but I thought this in particular, using virtual reality for healing and counseling and such, was an awesome new avenue to explore, whether it's for any kind of abuse. Sexual harassment is common. The VR simulation features 5 scenarios based on the experience. They enlist male friends to act out the scenarios in the film theory, and film them. It was partly inspired by the work of psychologists at the U.S. University who developed a VR program to tackle sexual harassment after finding that the young woman and had a stronger reaction to visual scenarios than controversial role playing. It emotionally reminds me I would know what future steps I have to take. I would know to tell a friend and to get support from the community around me and then go and take further action if necessary. Well, one thing that this thing didn't teach you is to build self-confidence and ignore. I actually think that the harassment is quite common, just that sadly it's been normalized. When you really go to and dissect what people say to you, some of these things are really a bit crass and very inappropriate. And it needs to be acknowledged that it's okay to say things about women's bodies. She adds, yeah, the Me Too movement sparkled in 2017 revelations of disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein, which I'm not going to get into it, but he's partly at fault, but not all at fault. Sexual, because I do feel that many women did give him favors, but they wanted payment in movie scripts offers. Sexual misconduct has since spread around the world. Weinstein, 68, was jailed for 23 years in March after being convicted of sexual assault and rape. Similar allegations have rocked key players almost in every industry, from Bollywood to the Italian opera to the politicians and the tech giants. Though the movement was slow to spread to Asia, it has gained traction with Japan, India, South Korea. Yeah, but guess what? It's not Vietnam. Vietnam told the woman, you're in control of your life. We don't want to hear your gossip. Be responsible for yourself. So in that regard, I think acknowledge Vietnam's. And I will bet you these 5 scenarios they made, none of them will help the man. What about these female teachers who hit on high school students or elementary school students? Or what about the ones where the girls are on campus and they hit on the guy, even follow him home and harass him, call him names? But then when he rejects them, they file a complaint even though he never touched them, and they keep out of school. So until I see both sides of role plays, this got some issues. The wall of silence. YouGov survey has found more than a quarter of women in Singapore had experienced sexual harassment, but only 56% have reported the incidents. However, there is no specific law against it. Instead, such acts are covered by the Penal Code and the Border Protection from Harassment Act. Okay. And while Singapore is regarded as one of the world's safest cities with a little violent crime, the cases of molestation increased more than 15%. You know, I visited Singapore twice, and both times I visited, I would be walking around and all the girls would be catcalling me because they wanted me to take them home, and I felt very disgusted. They were very ugly too. Sexual assault invasion penetration rose from 6 cases in 2016. So, okay, I'm not going to read much more of this, but what do you feel? I mean, I do think that this is great that they're using VR for this, and I hope they use this for other types of counseling besides domestic violence. They can use this for Alcohol Anonymous and anger management. I think that would be great. But I think you have to go on both genders doing wrong things. Otherwise, you have no credibility. So leave your comments below. And if you've been sexually assaulted or if you recovered from it, or if you think any of this VR would help you get over your issues. Like, comment, subscribe. On our last article today, you might know that Mother's Day is tomorrow. So this might be a publicity stunt, or maybe this is true, but let's read it anyway. Most firms view working mothers positively, a survey said, and this came from Taipei Times or Taiwan. While most working mothers felt that having children have a negative effect on their career, a vast majority of companies approved of their performance in the workplace. A survey by the Chinese language magazine Pentagon said. The poll surveyed the heads of human resources departments of 2,000 companies and more than 6,000 mothers who were either housewives or working moms or on parental leave. The poll found 54% of the mothers said that having children had held them back at work, while 87% of companies praised working mothers as steady performers. Look at Bertie Crock. Okay. In addition, 66% of companies polled said mothers are better team workers, and 64% said that mothers care about their position and salary. About 95% of the companies said that they would approve mother requests for leave, as they believe that mothers would perform better if they were allowed to take better care of their families, the survey found. Now, well, I don't know about that. I mean, maybe for Taiwan and Asia, but many women I know in America, they would just rather drop the kid off somewhere and never look back. Meanwhile, they'll let the schools and the daycares and everything else take care of them. Meanwhile, 97% of all the employers are in favor of mothers taking personal leave, while 60% of the companies said they would have trouble coping with the staff shortages if parental leave lasted more than a year. Some countries, unlike America, they'll last 1 or 2 years. It's like Vietnam, you get 2 years off when you have a child. More than 50% of the companies said that parental leave often lasts more than 6 months. Wow, so how long does parental leave last in your country? That I would like to know. And what country are you from? 75% of the companies said that they do not have workers to fill the employees in parental leave, it showed. More than 90% of companies also said that they welcomed fathers taking parental leave. Wow. In America, that'd be like never. But it would be inclined to demote them or reduce their salary if they did. Nearly 80% of the companies said they would likely not postpone promotions for mothers or delay giving them raises, while more than 80% of them said they would prefer their parents not to take their children to the workplace. Yeah, in many countries, parents do to either take them to work, or sometimes the company also has like a daycare, like Samsung has a daycare. When I was teaching some university students, they sometimes brought their kids to school. But how do you like that? That was interesting that they said for the man, okay, you could take time off, but we will lower your salary or we'll demote you. On the other hand, woman, you could take your time off, but we'll still perhaps promote you. Isn't that putting the woman first and not equality? She wants, I don't know, the hypergamy or the extra benefit for not the same level job performance. I just kind of caught that. What do you think about that? You think that's okay, or is that wrong? Okay. So overall, companies are willing to abide by the law of the governing parental and maternity leave, but few are willing to go the extra mile to introduce more creativity and flexible solutions. And keep in mind, many countries want babies now too. I put a video just yesterday or two, and Vietnam wants women to have more babies by 35. The second division of labor between mother and fathers regarding chores and childhood upbringing should be decided through discussions instead of salaries they earn. Third, employees should commit to introducing flexible work conditions for mothers. By granting parents leeway on their work hours, they would be able to adjust their hours better to match child school hours needs. This way, parents can get through work and worries and become more focused. So, what do you think? And again, if you do have a child, how do you manage your family life, child life, work life? Or if you have, if you're your company, what perks or benefits does your company offer? Or what perks or benefits does your government offer? Please leave those comments below. I would like to know. Moving up to our next article about women in work. Most fed up workers regade on decision to quit. So think about this. You know, you could have an angry work day and you think you're all that in a bag full of sugar and you're irreplaceable. So your boss pisses you off or your employee pisses you off and you quit. You think, all right, I'll just go across the street and get another job. But maybe that doesn't happen. So let's read the story and hear what people's outcomes really are. 3 out of 5 salary workers who consider quitting their jobs decide to stay in the end, according to a poll. Employment portal Job Korea said Monday that a survey of 2,928 workers found that only 35.2% follow through on decisions to quit their jobs. The other 64.8% wanted to quit but ended up staying. Probably because they had all their perks and benefits, pensions, 401ks, friends. The older they get, the more money they earn. The more likely the worker will stay, even if the job becomes barely so tolerable. Gosh, I've worked a long time. I've never really gone up or down on my pay scale. Some 60.7% of employees in their 20s and 65% in their 30s renegade on their decision to quit. That proportion rose to 68.3% among those in their 40s. And some of the 62% of the entry-level employees renegade on their decision to quit, while the ratio increased to 66.5% among mid-level staff, 71%. All right. So Jobs Korea said changing jobs is an easier decision for young and lower ranking employees. The biggest reason why they changed their minds was an uncertain future, followed by the desire to spend a few more years on the job for experience and complications in job switches. Some 10% of those surveyed said they decided not to quit because their current employer lured them with higher pay, promotion, and other incentives. So here's a few questions for you. If you do not have a happy job, what can your employer do with a job perk or benefit to entice you to stay? And if you thought about leaving, why did you want to leave? And did you follow through with it? And what was the outcome? Please like, comment, subscribe. I really love to hear it. I myself, I've never really quit a job. I've resigned from some for 2 or 3 years for some places I liked, but that's me. Tell me about you. Hi. The small clip you saw was brought to you by Loyal World News. If you like what you saw, you should subscribe and look up my daily Loyal World News report for its full version. If you don't want to watch it on YouTube, prefer to be on the road, I also have a podcast in every full-length video I put up.